Can Arizona get Noah Fifita right? And if Noah Fifita gets right, does that save Brent Brennan his job?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Locked On, your team every day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got a lot to get to this show. All right, the first thing that I want to talk about is where are we now with Arizona football? Noah Fifita, what is going to be the expectation? What can get him right? What does he need around him to be able to make this work? Now, we got to let's backtrack here just a little bit. Noah Fifita, coming out of Servite High School, was viewed as kind of a mid-level Power 5 prospect. You watch him, he's incredibly cerebral. He's got a pretty good arm. He can make the reads. And again, he's very smart, and his teammates respect him. That is a big part of that. And players just kind of gravitate towards him, whether that's Teteroa McMillan, whether that's Jacob Manu, I can just keep going on and on and on down the list. He is like I said, he's a stud. And you saw that Jedd Fisch didn't want to play him. He wanted to play Jayden de Laura, and Jayden de Laura was not very good. Obviously, you watch Jayden de Laura. He was running around. He's running around basically just trying to play sandlot football. And when he was taken out of the game, you brought in Noah Fifita, and Noah Fifita was much better. Arizona was on the verge of losing that Stanford game. And not only were they on the verge of losing in that Stanford game, they are on the verge of, how do I put this? They were going to lose that game. Noah Fifita came in, and the great thing that Noah Fifita has going for him as well is that he was able to just take the easy play. And that's what he did. He was doing checkdowns. He was doing runs. He was doing all kinds of easy stuff just to be able to put his guys in position to make plays. And he did just that. And then the rest is history. Against Washington, he wasn't great in the first half, but in the second half, he was fantastic. And he went through there and, like I said, and then after the USC game, he had a one shaky possession, but he was the better quarterback. He outplayed Caleb Williams in that game, and I think it's impossible to say otherwise. And then they won the rest of their games. Going forward. He was, like I said, he was just really, really good, and he did everything that Arizona needed, and he put his guys in position to succeed. Jedd Fisch goes off to Washington, obviously. And then Noah Fifita and everybody stays here. I think a big reason why, and I'm not breaking any secrets here. A big reason why is because Jedd Fisch didn't tell anybody. And, a guy like Noah Fifita, for example, and his parents, they were instrumental in putting those recruiting classes together. And when I say instrumental, I mean very instrumental, from keeping in touch with recruits, T-Mac, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think everybody thought that they deserved a little bit more than that. Obviously, Jedd Fisch didn't agree with that and only didn't give him more than that. So you bring in Brent Brennan. Brent Brennan inherited a fairly talented roster. I'm not going to sit here and say that it was a top 5 roster, but I think we can all be adults and admit that this was a better roster than it showed last year. And don't even know that it was particularly close. I mean, you watch them, and this team, you had a top 10 pick. You had 3 high-level offensive linemen returning. You had a good percentage of the defense returning. And again, maybe they shouldn't be really, really good, but at the same time, they should have been. How do I put this? I would say that they should have probably been about 7-5, something like that. But they were obviously awful, and a massive reason why was Dino Babers. Now, this is a difficult one because Dino Babers obviously had a good track record here at the University of Arizona. The problem with Dino Babers is that he came in and it was clear that he hadn't called an offensive play in about 10 years because the offense, even from day one, was predictable. It looked bad, and you saw it too from the 15-step drops to the from the 15-step drops to the odd delayed handoffs that nobody understood that always resulted in like a -10. It just wasn't good. And to Brent Brennan's credit, I think he realized that pretty early on, and he switched it over to Matt Atkins. The problem was Matt Atkins, even though I do like him, is just too green. And that was a team that came into the season with top 25 expectations, and they were one of the handful of most disappointing teams in the country. That's just the way it is. I'm not trying to talk, crap or anything. That's just the way it was. It was bad. So now you fast forward a little bit, you go into year 2. What do you have then? You've got Noah Fifita with a new offensive coordinator. And by all accounts, they're very happy with Seth Doege and how he's been. And Seth Doege has said many, many times, and this is going to be a situation where, like I said, he's been asked, is Noah Fifita good enough to be your quarterback and win a lot of games? And he said, absolutely, I can win a lot of games with Noah Fifita. He knows, he's watched Noah Fifita. He was at Southern Cal. He knows the kind of players that these guys are. And he said that. And he said the first thing was getting his footwork right. So having a real offensive coach is going to do, I think, a world of good. Now, you look back last year and you think, all right, which games could Arizona have won had they had a real offensive coach? You're probably winning 2 more games. You're probably winning Tech. You're probably winning West Virginia. Those games, and at that point, then 4-8, 6-6, a lot different than 4-8. But that is what it is. So now you've got Seth Doege in here, and he's also Seth Doege. And what I think is very, very interesting about him is that he's a coach that is very much in on the let's do what works. Let's do what I can adjust my style. And we've talked about this before. While he was at Marshall, this is a guy that wanted to throw the ball all around the field. When he was at Texas Tech. When he was at Marshall, he wanted to do that, but he couldn't because of injuries and all of this other stuff. So he had to basically be in a spot where he could essentially run the ball, and he did just that. He turned it into a run rate offense, which is kind of a cool name, actually. But with Noah, that's going to be huge. This season really kind of comes down to Noah Fifita for me. You lose T-Mac in a weird way, though. And again, I don't want to sound like one of these people, because you'll see some of these people out there, and they're generally really dumb. But the thing with T-Mac that almost was maybe even a little bit of is that T-Mac was essentially just, okay, well, when in doubt, just throw the ball up to T-Mac. And you could tell, and I don't blame Noah, when in doubt, there were times when he was just throwing that ball to T-Mac and saying, well, I hope you can go get it, because he was either under pressure or he was shook. Now, a lot of people are saying, Noah Fifita was missing routes. He was missing all of that stuff. I put a lot of that into him being just kind of shell-shocked, to be honest with you. I don't think, there were games where there was a reason that he was having to run back 20 yards. And I put that on the coaching staff. This was an offense that clearly had not been, this is an offense that had not been thought through. And I think that's the thing that concerns so many different people, is that it just, like I said, it just hasn't been, I think what a lot of people were hoping that it was going to be. So there's obviously that. But with Noah Fifita, the big thing then now is getting a connection with these other wide receivers, with these other guys. And I think the first one that you got to get, you look at it, and I think that they've got an idea, is Wysong. Wysong was brought in to kind of be his security blanket. Arizona fans saw Wysong last year at New Mexico, and he absolutely destroyed Arizona. So there is obviously, that's part of this. But Wysong's very good. I like Wysong a lot. He's going to be that security blanket. He's better than any number 2 that Arizona had last year, and he's better than any 2 Arizona had by a mile. Then on the other side too, you look at it, and you've also got somebody in a Chris Hunter. Chris Hunter really showed at the end of the season that he can be a really good football player for the U of A. And honestly, I was a little worried about losing Chris Hunter, because he's big, he's fast, he's explosive. And I figured that somebody would look at him and be like, okay, well, you can do better over here. Here's more money than Arizona can afford. But he stayed true to the process, so you got to give him a lot of credit on that. But still a situation, though, where I think it's great for Arizona that they were able to keep him. I just think that, like I said, we'll see how he's utilized, but he's big time. And then Javin Watley, love Javin Watley. We've talked about Javin Watley a great deal. The only thing with him now is he's just got to perform. There's a lot of guys that can get on the field, but they don't perform when it really matters. And we've seen that. He looked like a stud in fall ball. We'll see if that comes over to the spring, but There's another one. And then obviously you got Chris Hudson. I believe that Chris Hudson is going to be I believe Chris Hudson is the best wide receiver on the team. I believe that he is going to probably catch for 700-800 yards this year. And I think that everybody should be very happy that Chris Hudson is on the U of A football roster. But he's another one. He's big time. He's really big time. So I like all the receivers. I really do. And that's not even including our guy, Jeremiah Patterson. And as far as being able to throw the ball, you also got Kean Burnett in there. So I think this coaching staff did a very, very good job as far as addressing the skill position guys. Now, the elephant in the room is the O-line, and we're about to get to that. But first, 5 Hour Energy, my friends, 5 Hour Energy. Okay, here's the great thing with 5 Hour Energy as well. All right, now, everybody out there, you're trying to be active and everything. Time to fuel it up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and thyme flavors of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick engineering shot. That's what's awesome about it. Now, here's a cool thing. I've seen a lot of stuff where, people are like, they're just kind of dragging throughout the day, and they use a 5 Hour Energy and it perks. Again, here's the great thing about it is if you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is number 5hourenergy.com. You can use promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. Again, this is the golf time of the year. Everybody, you want to be sharp. Now, again, the other thing, this offer is only valid until September 30th. So you only got you got a couple months left. Get in there, and it cannot be used with another promotion. The code is not good on subscription orders again. And so whether you're meeting with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order Transfusion 5 Hour Energy today. Again, you will thank me later. Check it out, 5 Hour Energy. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Locked on, your team every day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, the offensive line, that's obviously a major concern. But I do think that, there is, I think, a little bit of hope that you're going to be able to have this line be a little bit better than it was last year, mainly just from coaching. Because, again, the sheer talent on the line, not good enough. But I think that with Seth Doege, Doege's obviously hoping that he can get, a lot of quick outs, a lot of plays just to be able to get the ball out early. Not a lot of slow developing plays. And I think that he's also looking at a backfield now where it's improved. You've got a better backfield in place now. We're going to get to that in a second. But you've got to be able to play to guys' strengths. And one thing that does worry me, and I'm going to keep coming back to this, is the offensive line. You have a coach in Josh Oglesby, who I have no idea if he can actually coach or not. Wasn't overly impressed by him, to put it mildly. But I will say that, you got a second year coming here, so maybe it's going to be a little bit different. We shall find out. I'm not going to really sit here and say that Arizona is going to, play in the national championship game, but I do think that the offense should be significantly better, and that's a good aspect of it. But the line is going to be big. Starting at those two tackle spots, can Buchanan and Rhino, and that's who I'm assuming are going to be the guys, can they be the guys? And I don't know that. And I don't think that really anybody knows that. And I think that's the part that's a little disconcerting, because you got a bunch of new guys in here. And Josh Oglesby has never coached this system before, which is also kind of another red flag to me, but that's neither here nor there. But either way, it's not an ideal situation for sure. But we'll see. Now at the running back spot, it's going to be interesting. I like the running backs a lot more than last year. Now, if JCM was there, JCM would have been a stud. But obviously, it was Quali Conley. Quali Conley doesn't have the. Quali Conley doesn't have the, I think just kind of the oomph that somebody like a Kedrick Reesano has, or maybe even an Ishmael Mahdi. Maybe he does, but certainly not Reesano. I like Quincy Craig. I think they got three pretty good running backs, but the problem though is still going to be the offensive line. The talent is there to be able to take the pressure off Noah, but are they going to be able to make that work? And I don't know. I don't think that anybody knows. And I think that's the part that's a little bit concerning for, well, quite frankly, everybody, is that you just don't know. This is not last year was just such a disaster that it's hard to really have, real expectations. And we're about to talk about those expectations. That said, I need this offense. If Brent Brennan's going to get to year 3, I need this offense to be significantly better than it was last year. Last year, you inherited quite a bit, and, well, it was awful. I expect Arizona to be better this season or this coming season. I expect them to be significantly better. And if they're not, then Brent Brennan's going to have to go. It's really that simple. You got a new OC. You were allowed to basically do what you wanted this offseason to a certain extent. And now it's time to be able to show, now it's about to be able to show, can you put up, can you shut up? And we'll find out. I don't know. But I expect this offense. I think that I need this offense for sure to be amongst in the top 8 in the Big 12, amongst the 16 teams. If it's like 12, then Arizona is going to win like 3 games this entire season. So that's the first thing. I need the offense to be in the top 8. And I think it should be a top 30 offense in the entire country. You got the talent to be able to make it work. You got an OC. We'll find out, because like we talked about, I don't expect a lot from the defense this coming year. As a matter of fact, I would be very surprised if the defense is good. Like we talked about, I just need the defense to be okay. If the defense is okay, then I think you'll take your chances. But the biggest problem, though, will continue to be the offensive line. So I think you're really hoping that Seth Doege can gadget a lot of plays, can make different stuff happen. If he can do that, then I think Arizona could be in some pretty good shape. The problem, though, is you just don't have a lot of faith that that's going to be the case because of the personnel. And talking about the personnel, our joking aside, the fact that a guy like Chuba and Deuced are probably going to be your guards is not exactly a great sign, because again, Chuba has been playing defensive line for the last 5 years or 4 years or whatever the case may be. And then Deuce didn't play very well last year when he got in. So, there's obviously that. Now DeCambra, I think DeCambra is fairly proven. We shall find out. But, like I said, there's just questions abound around the offensive line. Now, I will say they brought in a lot of guys. Guy that we haven't talked a ton about, Tristan Bounds from Michigan. This is another one, though, where I don't really care. If Tristan Bounds didn't play at Michigan, that doesn't necessarily mean to me that he can't help out Arizona. As a matter of fact, this can't it wouldn't surprise me if he is actually decent. Just because you're not at Michigan doesn't mean that you can't contribute at the U of A. We'll find out. But he's one that definitely keep an eye on. He was brought in to obviously compete. He was a fairly well thought of kid coming out of high school, and who knows, maybe he just needed a change of scenery or something like that. But, also a lot of this, too, is just going to be that Arizona, and again, this is weird to say, but a lot of this is just going to come down to the defense as well. You can't have the situation where Arizona's down 21-0 midway through the first quarter, like seemed to be pretty much every game last season. You can't have that. You've got to be able to keep these games close, get ahead, because then you get the full display of what Seth Doege can do. At that point, then, I think you feel like, all right, now Seth Doege, now you can do what you want. But if you're down 21-0 and you have to start winging the ball all over the field, that's not great for, especially when you've got an offensive line like this, when you got a shorter quarterback like this, that's obviously not good. So a lot of this is going to be on the defense as well. And I mean, we'll see how it plays. But, like I said, I think there's a lot of questions that a lot of people have. And, I'm right at the top of that list. Now, we're going to talk about what I think will happen this coming season, all right, on the eve of camp. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, here's what I think is going to happen. I actually think the offense, and I don't know how they're going to do it exactly, but I think the offense is going to be pretty good. I think we're going to find out very, very quickly, though, against Kansas State. That is going to be an excellent barometer, because Kansas State, I think, is going to win the Big 12. I don't think that they are a national title contender by any means, but I do think that Kansas State is going to win the Big 12. And I think they're the team that generally gives Arizona, the type of team that generally gives Arizona a lot of problems because they're big, they're physical, and they're well coached. Those are generally teams that Arizona does not play well against. And so that will be an opening test. My other question will be, can they keep Noah Fifita up? Can they keep Noah Fifita upright? If they can keep Noah Fifita upright, then I think that Arizona is going to be in good shape because I have a lot of faith in Noah Fifita. I think that Noah Fifita is, like I said, there's a lot of quarterbacks I would take over him. Last year was just a mess, and I don't think that any quarterback could have really done what he did. So, like I said, there's that. But a lot of this is also going to be players progressing. Kean Burnett, for example. Kean Burnett has to stay healthy. If Kean Burnett stays healthy, then, Arizona could win some games because he's got a great ability to be able to get open. And you saw against Utah when he had an opportunity and he played, he was good. The problem is that he's always hurt. So he's got to stay healthy. Sam Olsen, like I said, Sam Olsen's not really helping out anybody. I don't think that you look at Sam Olsen and say, man, that's going to be somebody that's really going to be able to break things open for the Wildcats. I don't think there's going to be any of that case at all. But there is obviously an interesting point when it comes to that. So Arizona, though, like I said, I think the offense is going to be pretty decent. My concern, though, is the defense. And if the defense is, giving up points left and right to Arizona, or to Arizona's opponents, then, well, that's a bad situation. So be that as it may. Now, but I got to give Brent Brennan some credit. He brought in a new OC. My concern was he was going to say, all right, well, Matt Adkins is young. He's green. We just got to get him ready. That was not what I was looking to see. And so he brought in somebody that is young, but also has a track record at this point. And I think things like that are, it shows that Brent Brennan is in a situation where he knows what he's doing. So we'll find out, though, because if Arizona gets the doors blown off against Kansas State, it's very easy to see where this is going. If they play Hawaii and it's 28-21 going into the fourth quarter or something like that, it's also easy to see where it's going. You kind of got that sense last year against New Mexico, where against New Mexico, Arizona won, but it didn't look right. It didn't look right at all. They were unimpressive, and they obviously got the doors blown off of them against Kansas State. Kansas State's going to be a good measuring test right there because, again, it's a well-coached team, tough. You got Avery Johnson back. You got Dylan Edwards. You got some really good players and probably the team to beat in the Big 12. And then you got Iowa State after that. I mean, the dream would be to be able to split those games. I don't see Arizona splitting those games. As a matter of fact, I don't really think they have much of a chance in those. But after that, then you got a lot of winnable games. You got a lot of Cincinnati's. You got a lot of Colorado's. You got a lot of Houston's. You got a lot of, teams like that just aren't very good. Sure, you do miss out on UCF. That's kind of a bummer, but who knows? Maybe that's not a bummer because Arizona lost by 9,000 points to them last year. But the schedule is fascinating, though, for sure. And when you watch it, I think it's easy to come here and say that, Arizona is in a spot where they can probably get 5 to 6 wins this season. If you get 5 to 6 wins, depending on how it looks, maybe you can go for that 7 or 8 win realm. We'll see. All right. Now, tomorrow we're going to be talking more about fall camp. We're going to have some reports. We're also going to talk Arizona basketball. There's been some funny recruiting stuff that has gone on as well that we can also make fun of ASU. Well, I'll just tease it right now. ASU hired a high school coach from Phoenix to be on the Bobby Hurley coaching staff, trying to get Cam Holmes to go there. I can assure you that Cam Holmes will not be going there. Neither will Aiden Diggs. And it's maybe the first time ever that, maybe a public high school coach maybe made a curious decision because he's definitely jumping on a sinking ship when it comes to the Bobby Hurley regime, and that will be that. But like I said, this season is really all about getting Noah right. If Noah Fifita is right in Arizona and he's winging the ball all over the field, then Arizona's probably going to win some games, maybe get a bowl, and then you look at a senior season with Noah where you're like, okay, let's see what we got. Let's roll this out and let's take our chances. It also helps that you're in the Big 12, which is not obviously it's an underrated, but it's not a great football conference. So there are wins to be had. But the biggest thing with this team is, like I said, there is talent on the offensive side of the ball. The biggest thing, though, is getting Noah right. If you get Noah right, then I think Arizona can compete for a bowl game, and I think Arizona can be considerably better than they were last year, which is kind of amazing thinking about all the players that you ended up losing. But as always, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. Locked On, your team every day. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Bear down, back the A, and have a great rest of your Tuesday.